So let's never have to give a prayer of lack in this building. Because as you said today, it's already here. Everything we need is in this room. Everything you need is inside you. Well, a couple things. This is a daunting task because, to be honest, like, remember one, I was here today, but Ruth came running home with notes, telling me all this stuff. He said I had to check it out later because I was going that weekend, about how we should spend, maybe we don't need to spend as much time reading people like Paul about what they said about Jesus. Maybe we need to go back and spend more time reading what Jesus, Yeshua, as I like to call it, said. So rather than worrying about the biography of the teacher, let's go and find out what the teacher had to teach us. And last week, Stephen brings up some of these misconceptions that we've been taught and things like that. And they both are bringing and doing research. I fumble around with these things at times, so this is a daunting task to me. So what I may try to do is piggyback off of a little bit of what they had to talk about, and I don't want to call it plagiarism. And that way maybe I'll be in the ballpark. But as I said earlier, and I have a little bit of authority from someone like Gabriel saying that no matter what happens, that some message will get through. And if it doesn't, folks, it'll be over in 20 minutes. This is a total rate, and then you won't be here all day. I promise you that. I even have a timer. I'm going to start this time. Okay? First of all, I want to say, let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable to you, O Lord, my rock and my redeemer. So let those words come through. Let's start off, first of all, by asking a couple of questions here, if you don't mind. Does anybody in here recently has work done on their house and their car? Anybody? Okay, people. Now, when you went out there to get somebody to do this work, how many of you got a number of estimates? Okay. How many of you went to a repair shop or home builder that you knew and knew their work? How many of you found somebody that had a good reputation in the community? Okay. How many of you hired somebody off the street and walked in and said, I can do that you had never seen before? Nobody, right? Nobody did that. Now, I don't mean to open any old wounds, but I want to ask you another question. How many of you have had a bad relationship and ended up being bad because someone told you they were something and you simply took them at their word and later found out that that person wasn't who they said they were? Okay? Wasn't very pleasant and it was problematic. Now, this might be a little touchy for some people to speak and talk about that. You know, a lot of times we've come into this understanding in this day because of not so good teaching at times that this is what we can do in our spiritual life. All we got to do is say some words. I believe in Jesus Christ and I'm saved. Okay, that's what a lot of us have been taught, right? Let's be honest about that. But the question is, did Yeshua, did Jesus himself say that? And you know, even before getting right there, I want to start with something, and Stephen talked about this, but this is important, and he talked about how when Christ transcended and he left his brother James in charge of the church. He picked James. Somebody that he knew that had been taught correctly, right? Okay? You don't have to believe me, you can go read it, it's there. And that's one thing I want to encourage you to do. If I say something up here and it sounds crazy, I'm going to give you sources so that you can go and check it for yourself. And there's another reason for that too, because there are things that I get out when I read various spiritual books and things like that, but there are things that other people bring to me who look at the same things and they see things I can't see. Because the same one who put things in me put it in you, and all of it is kind of spread out here. That's one of the things that's going on, is when we try to search for unity, that when we come together, maybe we can put this together. Amen. Okay. Iron sharpens iron, as they said, right? Yeah. Okay, so we need each other to get some understanding. So, but I want to I want you to do that and go look at it. This is from the book of James. And this is the first chapter, 22, 25. And I'm going to read a little bit of it and just summarize it. He says that this is the one that Yeshua appointed to complete the work on earth. But be doers of the word and not hearers only, deceiving yourselves. For if anyone is a hearer of the word and not a doer, he is like a man observing his natural face in the mirror. For he observes himself, goes away, and immediately forgets what kind of man he was. But he who looks into the perfect law of liberty and continues in it, and is not a forgetful hearer, but a doer of the word, this one will be blessed in what he does. Okay? And then later on he goes on, and here's another verse that you hear. This is in 17. He says, thus also faith by itself does not have works. That does not have works is dead. Okay. So we, in this day and age, in different arenas, particularly politics and things like that, and I don't care about people's politics, but I want you to be aware of something. We're in an era where a person can tell you that they are this, and everybody goes, okay. And then they tend not to look at the actions. And then, down the road, they're disappointed. And I'm here to tell you, don't be disappointed, and don't be angry at these people. Because the truth of the matter is, you really got to look at people's actions. You got to look at mine and see what kind of person. I can tell you what kind of person I am, but the truth is what you see. I had a friend years ago, and he used to look out for this woman's child. She had a child, I think he was maybe 10 or 11 at the time. And he would take him along, we'd be doing things, musician friends and stuff, and he had this kid with him. And one day, this child looks up at me and says, are you a Christian? Now, usually when people ask you that in this day and age, they're asking you that because if you say, well, no, I don't know, then they will proselytize and try to convert you. Okay, they're going to say it. But this was a child, and my friend must have thought about it, and rather than saying yes or no, he said, why? And the child said to him, because you're really kind, and people told me Christians are kind. And then my friend said to him, and I guess I am. Notice that he didn't have to tell him that. Out of the mouths of babes and sucklings. Okay? This child knew what this man was in his heart. Not because of anything that he said, but because of the way he had treated his child. This is what Yeshua was talking about. This is what he truly was teaching. This is what James is saying here. Is that we live in an age where you profess this and everybody gives you a pass. And they claim that this is what is taught. They claim that this is what we say the master teacher taught. But that's not what he said. And he even talks about it in his own. And now, like I said, I won't read these to you, but I would ask you to go to like Luke 10, 25 to 37. That's the story of the Good Samaritan. And most people know the story of the Good Samaritan. Okay? And the idea that the Samaritan, let's look at it like this. The Samaritan, there's this man who gets waylaid around the road, and, these bandits beating him up and hurting him and all this. He's attacked. And a priest comes by. Now, I want you to notice something. How did you know he was a priest? He had a title, obviously. So everybody knew from the title that he was a, quote, priest. Okay? Priest walks by. There's leaves in there. And then, all these other people, a Levite comes by. And this is another person with a title. A title that we look at as being holy, right? Like we say now, a Christian. It wouldn't have been a Christian then, but nevertheless, somebody who has a religious standing. And this man passes him by. And finally, a Samaritan, and I won't get into this. Stephen and Wanda can tell you a lot more about the history about the Samaritans and like they're being separated from the other Jewish people and things like that, and then things of belief. But let it suffice to say that they were not considered the holiest people by the folks that Jesus was with. And the Samaritan decides to stop, help this person, puts him up in the inn, and the next day gives him a little money to go on the way. So Yeshua asked the question. Now, okay, well, let me go here first. The idea of being a Christian, you're going to be saved, you're going to go to heaven, and God is going to be pleased with you, right? It's what they tell us. So here's the priest that has the title. He got the holy title. And then they like, who's holy? All these holy people. And Yeshua's question is, which one is the Father most pleased with? And you know the answer. The Father is pleased with the one who didn't sit there and say, I believe. The Father is pleased with the one who did what he asked us to do. Okay? Anybody in here remember when Yeshua's question about the greatest commandments, what did he say? Love the Lord thy God, with all thy heart, mind, and soul, and to love your what? Neighbor yourself. And this is why this story is being told, by the way. Because somebody's asking who's a neighbor. Well, we all each other's neighbors and stuff like that. But the point is, love, if you think about this, love could be a noun. I tend to think of it as a verb because that's the way it's used here. If you love your neighbor, it is not a noun, it's a verb. It is an action. So if you say you believe with the master, what we say is the master teacher, if we say we follow him, and we believe what he teaches, then we would do these things. As James said, be doers of it. So in order to be this, what we claim we are, we have to do what? We have to love. And if love is an action, it must be demonstrated. Now, some of you, I asked this question, have been hurt before by people who said, oh, I love you. And their actions didn't quite bear that out. See what I mean? So this is what Yeshua is teaching. And this is what gets lost. It is not enough for us to profess things. We can profess to be anything in the world. But the proof is in the actions. Your actions speak louder than words. If I tell you that I'm a saint and I wear saintly clothes, that you see me. That's why I want to be biker. Anyway, if I had on the robes on, I can wear the robes and I can walk around like this, that, and the other, and then you walk out there and hear me cussing somebody out because they cut me off, and then you say, wow. Now, it might have just been a bad moment, but the point is, you are going to, and from that point, you're going to look at me not by what I told you, but what you saw me do. So your actions speak louder than words. So I'm just here today to tell you, don't worry about telling people who you are and confessing your faith. Demonstrate it. Show them. One of the prayers that we have as a family, when we go to bed at night, the three of us, who've led it and I pray. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying we're perfect or anything, but we always try to say, one of the things that we say is, when we wake up in the morning, give us the strength to go out and maybe be open to help somebody so that they can see your goodness reflected in us. Because more than anything that you get up and say to them, more than any words that you preach to them, people are going to want to know based on how you treat them. And we make that mistake of always going out and trying to beat people over the head. I talked to a friend the other day who was concerned about children, and how they would do it. But just show them how you live, show them, and they'll be curious about it. One of my teachers, Rabbi Brooks, always told me, don't proselytize. Don't go out here and try to convert people. Live in a way that makes them want to ask you, why are you at peace? Because I can tell you all kinds of stuff, but I want to warn you. If I tell you how to fix your car, and my car is always broken down, don't listen to that. You better say, I love you, brother, but I think I'm going to find a qualified repairman. Okay? So, that's all that I wanted to say. I had a bunch of notes today, but I'm like, nah, we don't need to do that. Just remember that. And just try to, as you go out during this week, I would ask that you do one exercise. You know, go look at these things and go back and just maybe find one or two things where you can read where Yeshua is telling a story. Think of his parables. And if you look at his parables carefully, his parables usually talk about what people are doing and how they are regarded based on what they're doing. Like the woman giving her little bit, and everybody else is going out giving all this and letting everybody know, look what I gave. She gave all she had. Or the story of the person put in charge of the vineyard who doesn't take care of it. He's punished, right? But the ones like who vested the things that were given to them are rewarded. But it's always that people are rewarded not by what they say, but what they do. Faith without works is dead. You cannot say you believe the teachings of your teacher and you don't follow. Think about that. So, that's all I have for you today. Thank you very much. And as we go to meditation, let's start off with a moment of contemplation. If you are comfortable, close your eyes, bow your head. You don't have to. In this moment of contemplation, let us all think about what our actions are telling the world about who we are and what we're about. And I'm not asking you to judge yourself, but to look and see who you might want to be. And ask yourself, am I doing the things that reflect that person I want to be? And reflect the person that is living at the pinnacle of my ability and taking advantages of all the gifts that the one who created us has given us. So take a moment just to contemplate that. And if you're like me, like most human beings, we all have areas where we could probably do a little better. But we don't have to change everything all at one time and become this enlightened being today. Let us think about maybe one thing we can do in the next few days, next few weeks, that might project out into this world what we really want our heart to reflect. Think about maybe one thing we could do where people will know who we are not by what we say, but by what we do and how we treat them. Now let us take a bit of moment and leave the contemplation. We can go back to that on our own time, but at this moment, let's go into a meditation. What I first want you to do is imagine that you've got this big box with a very heavy lid. I want you to take all Your health concerns, place it in that box. All your financial concerns, place it in that box. All the concerns you might have for family and loved ones, place it in that box. All the stresses you have about the state of this physical world, place it in this box. This is your time to communicate with the divine, and you don't need those things at this moment. I want you to take it, place the lid, that box, want it firmly secured, and understand that none of these things can get out unless you allow them to come out. At this moment, just let yourself be empty, quiet, so that you can hear what comes to you without anticipating what it might be, trying to shape the message. Just take a moment to listen. Now, divine one, as we leave this moment, give us the wherewithal, the understanding to know that you are a constant presence, that you are always there, and that we always have access. Give us the wherewithal to sometimes be able to stop and see that you are there, and realize that we are never alone, that we have all that we need. Let us go forth in this world to demonstrate that by what we do.